Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay back my cousin after my baby ruined her blouse? I gave birth 4 weeks ago, and we decided to have a baby ceremony, where everyone gets to meet our lovely daughter Charlotte. My cousin Alice and her parents were among the guests. The first thing I'll say about her is that she has expensive taste. She's the sort of person who has a minimum price range for how much she spends on clothing. She doesn't own anything that isn't designer and has some items of clothing that cost thousands. She is a banker and still lives with parents so can afford the lifestyle. It was Alice's turn to hold the baby and she was happy to at first, but suddenly Charlotte vomited on her. Alice handed Charlotte back to me and ran off crying, and spent the rest of the event crying in the car. I went to see her to apologize, but she didn't want to hear any of it. My mum gave her one of her shirts, which was too big for her, and she felt completely upset and humiliated. Today I got a call from my mum, saying that she'd been on the phone to her sister Alice's mum saying that they want me to reimburse the cost of a blouse, roughly £1,800, since it was completely ruined. I have said no. At the end of the day, we all know what babies can be like. She took a risk wearing something so expensive knowing a baby was nearby, and unfortunately, it backfired. I feel bad for her, but it was not my fault. Am I doing the right thing by refusing to pay up? Am I the a-hole for refusing to boycott my husband's party and photo shoot in light of him wanting to exclude my disabled son from it? My 42 female husband, 48 male of 3 years, and I have a blended family. He has 2 daughters, 17 female, 10 female, and I have a daughter, 11 female, and a son, 14 male. Ethan. My son has cerebral palsy, but despite being in a wheelchair he is mostly independent, and all but one of his grades in school has been an A or B. My husband is a dentist who started his own practice 2 years ago, and has been growing his social media presence. He wanted to showcase his kids' family as part of it, so we have done cute pictures of the girls with cute pink scrubs on sitting in dad's chair, stocking up the waiting room with toys, etc. Since the social media accounts have been gaining traction, there's been a lot of drama. His ex, 47 female, was angry that her younger daughter was being tagged in posts that listed Botox as part of the services offered. She also said her 10-year-old could not consent to be featured on a public Instagram the way her older sister could. So my younger stepdaughter was erased from my husband's public accounts. Labor Day is coming up and my husband is throwing a party and doing a photo shoot. My husband wanted to showcase us as a blended family, so I assumed it would all our kids minus his 10-year-old. However, he told me he wasn't crazy about having Ethan at the party. He does suffer from dysarthria, so his speech can be a bit distorted. However, my husband's major concern is that Ethan can be a bit slow with social cues and can talk on and on. It's been a bit of an adjustment with regards to my husband and Ethan. Ethan is known as a class clown. Most people think he's funny, but my husband complains he doesn't get the jokes. In addition, while my husband has introduced my daughter to a lot of business associates and on social media, but a lot of people don't really know that much of Ethan. My husband said he didn't want a picture with Ethan and people online going, "Wait, who is he?" My husband asked that we send Ethan to his dad's for the party and photo shoot. I asked my ex to take him for the long weekend, and he was upset. He said my husband looks down on disabled people and he's been excluding Ethan. He demanded I say that either both kids are included or none are. I told him I was not going to threaten to not support my husband at his event or photo shoot. It is his party and therefore his choice, and I wasn't going to ruin his wish to have a blended family presence. Picture. My ex said he thinks I'm in some honeymoon period fog and that he liked my husband at first, but he sees scorn in the way he looks at Ethan. He said, mark his words, and that if I didn't stick up for Ethan, he'd be exerting his own parental rights to the fullest extent going forward with regards to both kids. Am I the a-hole? I wish my husband would invite Ethan, but sometimes people have trouble getting along, and I think that's what's happening here. My husband has countless patients who are sick or disabled. The word scorn is an insult to his character. Am I the a-hole for lying to my boyfriend about my body count? I, 23 female, found myself in a tricky situation recently and wanted to know if I was in the wrong. 3 years ago, I started dating a wonderful guy named Alex, 28 male. Our connection was immediate, and everything was going incredibly well. When the topic of our sexual histories came up, I panicked. I was worried that my number might be higher than his, and I was afraid that he would judge me for it, so instead of being honest, I decided to lie and said my body count was lower than it actually was. At the time, It seemed like a small fib that would save me from potential judgment. However, a few days ago, Alex and I were at dinner with some friends, and the topic of body counts came up. As the conversation continued, I started getting intense anxiety. I knew I had to come clean to Alex, so I waited until we were back home, and I confessed and told him my real number. Alex was visibly hurt and felt betrayed by my dishonesty. He told me that honesty and trust were essential in a relationship, and he couldn't believe that I had lied about something so personal. He then called me a lying bitch, which shocked me, but I also understood why he was so angry. I talked to my friends about this yesterday, and they were divided on the issue. Some thought that I shouldn't have lied in the first place, while others believed that my lie was relatively harmless and that Alex should understand why I lie. Since then, Alex has hardly talked to me. This morning he said he is struggling to rebuild his trust in me and that he needs space. I got a text from him an hour ago, saying he is going to stay with his mom for a few days. I feel like I fucked everything up and I'm scared he's going to leave me. Am I the a-hole for lying about my body count? Edit. My number is 5, including him, but I told him it was 3. Edit 2. I figured an update was easier to answer some questions than replying to comments. Right before he asked me my number, he was telling me that he's disappointed in his sister because she recently told him her body count, and he told me hers was 6. He joked that mine better not be that high. No, I didn't ask or even think to ask about his sister's body count. He just brought it up, which I thought was kinda weird. So I was worried, and I knew 1 digit wasn't a big difference, but it seemed like it to him. I know I shouldn't have lied. I feel terrible about it, and I wish I could take it back. We are texting right now, and he explained that he's upset with me because of my number. He said lying about it is obviously an issue too, but he's more mad that I slept with 5 guys total. He said 4 was his limit, which I just find out because his number is bigger than mine, but I didn't care about his number. I didn't even want to know, but he told me anyway. As for the name calling, he has called me names before, over small things that I chose to ignore because I'm a people pleaser and don't want to make it a big deal. I was used to it, to be honest. My parents called me all sorts of things growing up. I asked him if we could talk on Saturday about all this instead of texting, so hopefully we can talk more about it. Thank you all for your responses. I appreciate everyone's takes on this. Am I the a-hole for being angry at my son for not letting me see my newborn grandsons first? I, 50 for male, have been eagerly anticipating the arrival of my oldest son Corey's 30 male children, as he's the last to give me grandchildren. Despite my love for Corey, I don't have the best relationship with his wife, and the feeling is mutual. Throughout her pregnancy, I made Corey promise that I would get to see the kids first, just like I did with all my other children. He assured me that he would make it happen. However, when the twins arrived a week ago, I was shocked to see Corey's wife's father holding them first at the hospital. I couldn't hide my disappointment, and Corey apologized, mouthing I'm sorry, and I didn't handle it the same way I did with his siblings. I didn't hug or kiss Corey, just had some small talk, congratulated them, and left abruptly. When Corey apologized via text, explaining that his wife insisted her father be the first to see the kids and he didn't want to cause her stress, and he would make it up to me, I exploded at him through text, expressing my anger and disappointment. He apologized again, but I blocked him. Now, my wife and daughter, Danielle, are upset with me, claiming I'm breaking Corey's heart and need to move on. However, I believe I had the right to be mad since he broke a simple promise. My other sons, Andrew and Daniel, side with me, stating that Corey's wife intentionally stirred up drama, knowing about the promise, and they're angry at Corey for prioritizing his in-laws over me. So, am I the a-hole for being upset about Corey breaking his promise? Am I the a-hole for taking my grandchildren to Disney for the first time without their mother and refusing to apologize when confronted? My son made this account and asked me to post this story because he claims my normal meter, skew, and the internet is going to tell me I'm an asshole. I recently babysat my grandchildren 5 and for a period of 4 nights and 5 days so my son and his wife could attend a wedding in Mexico and spend a few days on vacation. They approached me since her mother would not be available, and I initially said I wasn't comfortable with that. It seemed like a long time to watch the kids, and she has point blank told me that the woman's family is more important than the man's, so I was irritated I was being asked, and not her mother. I will admit that I did give in when my son became very emotional, but I felt feel like they were being manipulative. While I had the kids, I was invited to a birthday at Epcot and wanted to go. It didn't even occur to me to run it by my son or daughter-in-law, as I had the kids for an extended period of time, and obviously they knew they would be going where I went. My daughter-in-law had previously mentioned wanting to save up for Disney, but she said that about a lot of things, and never made me aware it was something super special to her. Also, it was Epcot. It's not like I took them to Magic Kingdom and they had some magical moment of seeing their favorite character. When they returned and found out, my daughter-in-law was furious and burst into tears. She said I stole one of her kids first and called me entitled. To be honest, I didn't react well to being called entitled, when she was the one who had previously demanded babysitting. My son asked me to apologize as she was distraught over missing their first Disney trip, but I declined and asked them to leave. My son reached out again and said, I should have asked for something that big, and his wife feels robbed. I know she is a huge Disney person, but it was Epcot, not quintessential Disney, and I don't feel I should have had to miss out on a birthday party wanted to attend. I told my son I'm not apologizing for anything and maybe they should think about how they made me feel when they didn't respect my initial no.